So there's lots to talk about today and many threads we need to pull on. First things first, there appears to be some kind of recent attempt to reignite the COVID narrative despite the Ukraine-Russia narrative currently taking precedence. There's been several recent news stories in the mainstream media about rising COVID cases once again. The Guardian had this article dated March 20th. COVID restrictions easing across Europe despite surge in cases. Germany to lift most controls despite daily record as cases also climb in Austria, Spain and France. On the same day, the Irish Mirror posted this: could Irish holidays in 2022 be ruined again? Latest as COVID cases surge in Spain, France and other holiday hotspots. In Spain, where masks are still required indoors and on public transport, 211,241 new COVID cases have been recorded over the past 2 weeks. The Independent.ie had the following from March 17th. Taoiseach Micheál Martin will have to stay in the US for at least 10 days following positive COVID-19 test. On March 19th, Politico had this: Austria reintroduces face masks as coronavirus cases surge. Vienna is the first government to reintroduce restrictions during the current wave. Dublin Live had the following article from March 21st. COVID-19 Ireland. Dublin professor warns new variant will hit soon. 1,185 patients are in hospital with the virus, the highest since February 2021. A Dublin professor has warned that the new BA2 COVID-19 variant is spreading fast and is expected to be in Ireland soon. Cases of the virus are surging throughout the country, with 1,185 patients in hospital with COVID-19 as of Sunday. 49 of these are in ICU. DCU Professor of Health Systems Anthony Staines told Newstalk that he expects the new BA2 variant to land in Ireland soon, if it isn't here already. So what's going on here? Are we being prepared for another COVID case-demic wave, another set of restrictions, or even another lockdown? Will the mask mandates be reinstated once again? I said it was all going to come back. Is it all just a power flex? Now let's shift gears here. Back in December of 2021, I produced a video called Agenda 2030 and the War on the Car, in which I talked about the various ways in which the globalists intend to get us to give up our cars. Here's a brief excerpt from that video. One of the big changes the globalists want to make to our lives is weaning us off owning our own cars. The cars of the future will be essentially self-driving taxis for hire, and they will be designed to only take us to certain permitted destinations within human habitat zones of towns, suburbs, and smart cities. Certain rural areas can be placed off limits to us because they will be considered areas of ecological preservation or areas that need to recover from man-made climate change or whatever. So how do they get us to eventually give up our cars? Well, there's a few strategies that they can employ, and all of them will be done incrementally over several years. The obvious ones would be things like increasing our road taxes, vehicle registration tax, new carbon levies, insurance hikes, and of course, significant increases to petrol and diesel prices, which are already well underway this year, you may have noticed at the petrol pumps. So as I've mentioned in this video, petrol and diesel prices were increasing anyway for some time. But now, the mainstream media has been trying to rewrite recent history in the minds of the general public over the past few weeks by getting them to believe that the reason for these increases is due to the Russia-Ukraine war, despite the fact that the war didn't start till February. So I think that bears reminding people. But there appears to be another vector by which car ownership is potentially going to be attacked. This article is from Sky News. Put the brakes on and keep the car in the garage on Sunday to ease oil shock, says IEA. The intergovernmental body is calling for consumers in advanced nations to curb demand, stirring memories of the 1970s as the world faces the prospect of losing 3 million barrels a day of Russian oil output. Lower speed limits, more home working, and car-free Sundays could help the world avoid a damaging oil supply crunch caused by the Ukraine war. Yeah, caused by the Ukraine war. The International Energy Agency has said. The intergovernmental body also urged motorists to adopt more car sharing and ease off on air conditioning in vehicles as part of a 10-point plan, which it said would reduce the price pain being felt by consumers around the world. So it turns out the justifications for reducing human movement and curbing car usage won't just be about climate change and CO2 emissions. We are looking at yet another Hegelian crisis where a problem has been created and the solution just so happens to neatly connect with the society-altering goals of Agenda 2030. The article continues. The measures could also lessen economic damage and shrink Russia's energy revenues, as well as having the added benefit of moving oil demand to a more sustainable pathway in the drive to net zero, the IEA said. So there you go. That's it. The climate change hook is there as well. What a coincidence. It just happens to also serve another globalist agenda simultaneously. So what's going to happen? Are normies genuinely going to accept this and choose to leave their car at home to fight Putin, right? To stick it to Putin. I'm not driving on Sunday. That'll show, Vladimir. I could just imagine Joe Normie saying, I'm going to leave my car at home on Sunday to fight Putin, while also helping to drive down fuel prices and fight climate change all at the same time. Wow. Now, I've been saying for 2 years that hyperinflation was on the cards, and we can now see that the Russia-Ukraine war is being used as a cover story to justify this. But as Gran Torino has said recently, lockdowns over the past 2 years were used to slow the velocity of money in the economy. So that's why I'm a little bit frustrated with some people who are focused on the soap opera plot points that they've been given to keep them distracted. The Ukraine biolab story is just yet more theatre, while people are focused on the various story elements that the media give them to become invested in. They're only further falling for the psyop and also being distracted so that they don't notice all of the information coming out about the adverse effects from the COVID jabs. Ultimately, Zelensky and Putin are two sides of the same Davos coin, and the details of the Ukraine-Russia storyline are largely irrelevant to most of us. The only thing that matters is how this entirely orchestrated and manufactured drama will impact upon your life, my life, our families' lives, our income, wealth, and freedoms. So plan accordingly. I can't help but wonder, and this is just a working theory here, that the Russia-Ukraine narrative was quickly introduced in order to accelerate the already overdue economic collapse, but to do so for a particular reason, because the Canadian trucker convoy movement was potentially going to spread worldwide, and the globalists wanted to put a stop to it by causing a major oil shortage, which would prevent truckers and motorists from congregating and blocking roads. And that might explain why the COVID narrative is now being wheeled out once again, because the petrol and diesel prices have been successfully increased significantly. Having said that, it must also be pointed out that there could be some merit to the theory that the Ukraine-Russia narrative has been in the pipeline for some time now, with pre-programming propaganda and deep hypnosis strategies being embedded to the public subconscious throughout the COVID psyop of 2020 and 2021. By this I mean the heavy usage of yellow and blue in COVID materials. Regardless, the energy crisis appears to be on the way, as Ireland's gas and electricity supplier Bord Gáis has said that the average gas bill is to increase by 39% from April. This article is from gript.ie. Bord Gáis has announced a huge incoming price hike for electricity and gas bills in the coming month amid the ongoing energy crisis. According to the company, consumers face a 27% increase in the average electricity bill and a 39% increase in the average gas bill from April 15th. This will represent an increase of around €340 per year to the average electricity bill and €350 per year to an average household gas bill. These latest increases come after a hike of €540 to these bills since the end of 2020, with electricity prices being raised 3 times in 2021 and gas prices being raised twice. So increases have been happening long before the Ukrainian war, and I think it's very important to point that out. In 2020, the average annual electricity bill in Ireland was roughly €1,100. Now it is around €1,500, with further increases on the horizon. Additionally, around the same time, the average yearly gas bill was around €800. It's now €1,200 per year. Meantime, the transformation of the financial system and global economy continues at pace. This article is from the Wall Street Journal. Saudi Arabia considers accepting yuan instead of dollars for Chinese oil sales. Talks between Riyadh and Beijing have accelerated as the Saudi unhappiness grows with Washington. Incredible. And again, it all ties back to that World Economic Forum model of the world, that by 2030, the US will no longer be the world's leading superpower. A handful of countries will dominate. This is the multipolar world they intend for us, and the weakening of the US plays a huge role in achieving that. We've also known that the globalists want to reduce meat consumption, as again, the infamous 2030 video from the World Economic Forum says that we'll eat much less meat, an occasional treat and not a staple. Well, we've just discussed how we're being told that people shouldn't drive on Sundays to reduce petrol and diesel prices, and of course when oil prices are high, it means everything we consume becomes much more expensive, including food. Well, to help deal with high food prices, maybe we'll be told that we need to eat much less meat? Oh, and would you look at that? This article is from the Brussels Times from March 18th. EU should target meat consumption to reduce food prices. EU ministers will have an informal meeting on Monday to discuss policy responses for the food crisis caused by the war in Ukraine. Options to be discussed include subsidised storage of pork meat and allowing to make use of a set-aside land to increase food production. Farmer organisations in Brussels asked for such policies. They also used the war and respective crisis to push against eco-friendly solutions and attacks on the farm-to-fork strategy. The best option, however, to reduce food prices would be if the EU would announce a reduction of meat consumption by 25% by the end of 2022 and 50% by 2025 to make space for grain production for human consumption instead of grains and soy for animal feed and meat consumption. 190 scientists have asked the EU in an open letter for a massive reduction of animal foods to allow the production of more grains for human consumption, together with two other policy responses: more legumes and less food waste. The letter was published on Friday by Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research. Wow, it sure is an amazing coincidence that such calls for a reduction of meat consumption to tackle the food crisis just happen to perfectly line up with long-term plans by globalists to reduce our meat intake. And yet normies haven't got a clue, and they believe all of these radical transformations that are happening around them are simply organic and random events, as opposed to the completely engineered and agenda-serving crises that they are. I want to conclude this video on a note of positivity, because those few of us who are awake are obviously scratching our heads trying to think about what exactly we're going to do to survive and endure the chaos and challenges that lie ahead. A friend of mine by the name of Philip Dwyer, who I've had on the channel before, runs the Men of Ireland Trek hiking group, which is a wonderful example of the kind of localism and community building I've been promoting for some time now. It's ideal for like-minded Irish men looking to build a brotherhood and support network throughout these challenging times. I've attended a few of these, and I've really enjoyed the hikes, the banter and the camaraderie. And it's an ideal way for Irish men to reconnect with their homeland and experience the extraordinary beauty of this country. I highly recommend that you attend these treks if you can, and they're totally free. I'll include Phil's channel linked below if you'd like more information. For those of you who don't live here in Ireland, obviously, perhaps you could consider setting up something like this with some friends and trying to grow some kind of community of your own. Ultimately, we're only at the beginning of this utter shit show that's about to befall this clown world planet of ours. And one person alone cannot be expected to shoulder the mental and emotional stress by themselves. It's a great strain on a person. We all need support, encouragement, and above all, a sense that we are in control of our circumstances. And by establishing some kind of network of trusted friends, we can take small steps each day to prepare ourselves. The left likes to use that slogan, "We're stronger together." Well, of course it is true, so long as the people we're together with are on the same page. Thanks very much for watching. If you'd like to support my work, you can do so via the links below. On my website, computingforever.com/donate, there are some crypto options, or alternatively, you can use the subscribe star link. It's very much appreciated. I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye-bye.